Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome everyone into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology turned podcast. Everyone, welcome into the program. Today on the show we have headlines, and these headlines we have just a handful of stories, nothing that's going to overwhelm you, but hey, some stuff to definitely talk about. And everything from Meta, of course Facebook if you have been living under a rock. We have some stuff about Twitter, some stuff about Apple, the world's first 3D printed eye prosthetic, I guess would be the best. The world's first prosthetic eye that would be 3D printed, which is a huge step forward for those who need these prostheses. We have some updates about SpaceX and more. So everyone, welcome into the show, computeramerica.com. That's where you'll find everything, including past shows, future shows, everything you need to know. You can, of course, find it right there. Of course, wherever podcasts are heard, you can tune in and find Computer America. And hey, we highly encourage you to check out social media, give us a like, give us a follow, give us a review. All of that helps us out immensely. Now, with that being said, why don't we go ahead and jump right into computer and technology news brought to you by Computer America. So I think that the first story, and this one is, kind of hard to believe, is, Google is getting sued. And that's not the unbelievable part. That's actually a very believable part. But the unbelievable part is that people actually took them seriously when they said, "Don't be evil." And they used that as their motto for quite a while. I guess people were really hopeful that this would be a multinational trillion-dollar company that would truly do good for the people. And, turns out, they changed that motto, and a couple of former motto, mantra, whatever you want to call it. Like, obviously they used it in promoting themselves. They had it in their terms of service. They had it, it was very obvious that Google was interested in getting people to follow this idea that, hey, they're a company, they are a company for good. A couple of former employees, some ex-engineers, you have Paul Duke, Rebecca Rivers, and Sophie Waldman have sued Google for allegedly violating the Don't Be Evil segment of the company's code of conduct. They claim Google fired them for organizing worker opposition to controversial projects like the Customs and Border Patrol protection contracts that they had. Of course, there are some very famous ones out there. There's this idea that they helped to add to facial recognition of the Pentagon. They had surveillance of American citizens. They were collecting data on things and sharing that with law enforcement. I mean, all that kind of thing. I guess these workers were, as far as social justice issues, Google was on the side that had a lot more money in that one. So, of course, what constitutes evil? Very, very vague, but these employees obviously felt that, as much as it is a philosophical line of reasoning, they should be held accountable. So the one-time employees claim Google rejected the famous phrase as it was both expensive and leading workers to organize. The internet firm supposedly decided it was better to fire people than admit its approach had changed and give up the accompanying benefits that came with its well-known motto. And so, of course, it's vague. They're saying that what defines evil exactly? However, the plaintiffs argue that "Don't be evil" was specific enough that it could be enforceable. The saying must have meaning if it was in the company code and thus binding, they said. So they're saying that because it's in the company code, it must have a meaning. There must be something there to warrant it being in the code of conduct. Obviously, they've asked Google for comments, and it has previously accused all the workers of repeatedly violating data security policies by obtaining or sharing confidential data, but the workers and other critics have said that this is just a cover for retaliatory action. There you go. Obviously, the lawsuit won't necessarily lead to stiff penalties, and by and large, these kinds of things do settle out of court. Google does not want a long, drawn-out fight over what is evil. Are we evil? Let's under a microscope, look at all of our past actions and decide what was warranted and what was unwarranted. Just really taking the dirty laundry out of Google and putting it under a microscope. Clearly, that sounds disgusting in so many ways, but Google itself does not want to do that. So odds are they're going to settle this out of court, and Google will, as usual, admit to no fault. Admittedly, who's to say? That's a hard one to prove, but I think that they have... Honestly, this seems like a money grab, and I hate to say it. Again, Google does so many awful things, and the workers have the right to, to organize and unionize and decide if the company that they're working for shares the same values that they do as individuals. But man, trying to sue them over "don't be evil," that seems really, really hard. I mean, I guess to be fair, to be fair. I think it was Domino's or someone, they were sued over having like the cheesiest pizza or, one of these other general phrases, the best pizza, so on and so forth. And they were found to not, in fact, have the cheesiest or the best pizza of any national chain. And then it came up with the word puffery. And puffery is exaggerated or false praise, essentially saying no one would actually believe us. We are simply using puffery for advertising. And that seems like what it is. Exaggeration. Don't be evil. I believe they could truly make a case for, hey, that was just an exaggeration. We want to be a company for good. And yeah, that's all that was just puffery. Yeah, I don't see this really going anywhere, but hey, Google's getting sued for don't be evil. I'm sure a lot of us wish that we could do that, but maybe former employees have a better chance than we do. So speaking of leaving the company, a couple of other stories here. This one, I'm honestly not surprised whatsoever. If you don't recall, Meta, formerly Facebook, had their own cryptocurrency in the works. And they wanted this currency, much like in a video game when they have their own form of currency and you switch US dollars into that currency to then use in the game, and you buy it in chunks, you get more for value, and of course they get to essentially keep your $20 and they give you 10,000 fun coins. And Facebook, I think, wanted to do something similar where they wanted you to put in your $20, you get 10,000 Facebook fun coins, they get to keep your money, and you get to spend their own internal currency that they kind of set the value to. It was called, I believe it was called Novi, Novi was what it was eventually going to be called. Now, the chief who was in charge, the crypto chief who was in charge for Meta to lead this project is leaving the company. And let me just tell you, as we're going to find out in another story here in a little bit, the person in charge leaving the project altogether, they're usually the ones to put all the dots together at the same time and quickly get out of Dodge. That's kind of their claim to fame, is that they have access to as much information as anyone, and they're going to, whatever they do, it really tells a lot. So, but he tried to play it off, saying that it's personal news. After 7 years at Meta, he's made the difficult personal decision to step down. He has entrepreneurial DNA just throbbing through him, and he can't help himself but to go and start something new. So they mentioned that Mark has spent the last 2 years trying to get Novi, the company's cryptocurrency wallet, off the ground. He announced a small pilot of the wallet in the United States and Guatemala earlier this year, but the wallet launched without support for Diem, the cryptocurrency previously known as Libra that Mark has co-founded. That project, which is now independent from Meta, has been repeatedly delayed amid pushbacks from regulators and officials around the world. And even news of the test of Novi prompted immediate pushback from lawmakers who urged the company to halt the test. And honestly, Facebook controls so much of the discourse. It controls so much of just people's personal lives. And the moment that you take payment through Facebook, and it's not just US dollars anymore, they're not just a point of sale, they're not just people who are brokering a connection between one person and another. As soon as everyone has to accept essentially Meta's cryptocurrency and everyone has to deal in that currency, then you're selling a shirt, not just for $10, you're selling it for the $10 equivalent of Novi. Because clearly Facebook Marketplace is one of the biggest marketplaces, short of Amazon. It's one of the biggest marketplaces out there. You have to start accepting Novi. And it gets, obviously you could do this whole switch thing where you immediately turn it back into dollars. But yeah, they're in such a position to keep vendors from customers that really vendors have to use their system. Like there's no way around it. So you can see why regulators would immediately just start pulling their hair out and just lighting things on fire when Facebook decides that they wanted to take over not just payments but currency itself. Cut the US dollar and of course taxes and fees and all the other regulation that goes along with marketplaces. They weren't going to let this happen. So it sounds like he's had enough. The project is not getting off the ground anytime soon. And he said, there's better uses of my time. And so he left. So there you have it. Novi doesn't seem to be heading anywhere anytime soon. So that seems to be the gist of that. Okay, speaking of not heading anywhere anytime soon, perfect. The Raptor engine. If you haven't heard about it, it's the next generation of engine that SpaceX is developing for its Starship that it's developing. And next year, they're hoping to have a launch every 2 weeks. And that's a lot of cargo, that's a lot of business, that's a lot of revenue that they need to meet. Well, on Black Friday, Elon Musk sent an anxious email to his employees, essentially saying, short of you physically not being able to get here, or if you have a pressing personal matter to attend to, we need all hands on deck. That's right. Elon Musk is freaking the heck out. Sorry for my language. He's freaking out over the fact that, the Falcon is, the Falcon rocket is not the orbiter that they need, or rather not the rocket that they need. They need the Raptor. And the Raptor had 2 of its directors flee the company. They left the company just a couple of weeks ago. He went in, did a whole internal audit, and turns out everything is really, really bad. Production is extremely behind schedule. He himself is going to be on the production line trying to push people as best he can. And he said that SpaceX is at risk of bankruptcy if they don't get this under control. Because really, to stay solvent and to deliver on a lot of promises that they've already cashed the check for, they need that next generation of rocket to be available to them next year. Hopefully, as he said, sometime in January and February. So he said that the consequences of SpaceX, if we can't get enough reliable Raptors made, is that we can't fly Starship, which means then that we can't fly Starlink Satellite V2, and saying that Satellite V1 by itself is financially weak, whereas V2 is strong. This rocket is going to be able to push a much bigger payload, deliver a lot more satellites at one time, and like you said, he's hoping to get Starlink Satellite V2 and enough of them into orbit to get Starlink up and running and generating revenue. Which is why, I always look at these companies. Tesla Tesla in particular, and of course now SpaceX, both connected to Musk, he is a master at manipulating media. He gets headlines for free. I mean, I myself probably talk about him almost every day or every other day. Think about all the other electric car companies. Think about companies like Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic. Think about car companies like I think it's like Rivian is the latest one. There was Tesla and Tesla and Nikola. There we go. That was the other car company. Think about all these car companies that don't get all the free press, that don't get all the publicity, and don't get all the venture capital funding that Elon Musk does. How do any of them survive? I mean, they run on a negative revenue for years and years if they ever turn a profit. So my point is, if Elon Musk is having trouble starting up a space company, then man, how are these other ones really staying alive? And I bet you Bezos is really asking that question himself about Blue Origin. Personally, I'm a little over the billionaire dick contest when it comes to who has the biggest rocket ship. If it all came crashing down, hey, I'm sure that we'll find a way to get into space when we need to. But still, hey, SpaceX is not out of the woods yet. They've been operating successfully for 10 years, but that does not mean that they are a guaranteed thing at all. So there you go. Okay, we'll see if we can get the Raptor production under control. Now, our next story, let's talk about Apple, just real quick. Speaking of space age technology, it looks like Apple is in pursuit of a true reverse wireless charging technology. So for those who don't know, Apple previously announced something, I think it was called like Air Power. Yeah, that's what it was called. It was called Air Power. And it was their induction wireless charging technology. It kind of fell through. They let other companies such as Belkin kind of pick up the slack to create that wireless induction charging. They made it compatible with MagSafe and a couple other technologies. But what Apple is actually working on, and they're still hoping to develop it, is instead of these charging pads that you set your phone on and or your Apple Watch or whatever, and you set these things on and they charge wirelessly, but they have to make physical contact. Instead, what Apple's working on, they want the iPad in particular, because it's so big, to be the true wireless charging technology where you would set your phone down within a couple of inches, not physically touching it, but within a couple of inches, and the iPad would wirelessly charge your iPhone. And then your iPhone, by extension, you set your Apple AirPods a couple of inches from your iPhone on a table, and the iPhone would emit a wireless charging signal, and it would then charge your AirPods. And of course, all of these would work in tandem. So of course, if you had your iPhone and your iPad next to each other, one of them plugged in, it would charge everything, and so on and so forth. That's what Apple is ultimately trying to do. No roadmap saying when they're actually going to get to it, if they can actually do it. But they're saying that, so there's no timeline for these developments, but it is something that they are actively exploring. They're not happy with the idea that you just set things physically on a pad and have it charge wirelessly. They want these things to, within at least a couple of inches, maybe even a couple of feet, charge each other remotely, and essentially turning one battery into the same battery altogether. Some of the reasons that this hasn't happened before is because, it just doesn't really work. They said that alternate wireless charging methods can work over greater distances than an inductive connection. But overall, you've had problems with overheating, poor signal strength, and yeah, it's just not really there yet. Apple is dead set. And here's actually the funny thing. Like, we've often joked about Apple's design philosophy, where whenever they want to come up with the next big design innovation, they talk to Johnny Ives and they say, what can we remove? And so that's why you lost the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. That's why you lost the home button. That's why you lost, just every little thing. So every time Apple wants to, innovate, they just get rid of something. And that next thing that Apple is really looking for, or at least in this case, they want to get rid of the charging cable altogether. They want this thing to be truly wireless. No charging port, no headphone jack, no holes in it really whatsoever. Like maybe just, speaker and microphone holes for obviously the sound waves to come in and out. But I'm sure even that, they're working on in-screen kind of vibration so that the entire screen itself is the speaker. So they're even trying to get rid of that. That's really what iPhone is looking for. They're looking for this smooth surface, absolutely no holes or imperfections whatsoever brick. And it all charges wirelessly, communicates wirelessly, does everything wirelessly. That's the dream. I really do feel in Apple's mind. And hey, they're gonna try. They're gonna try their hardest. So they're again, the point of this article, they're working on the true wireless charging technology. When they get there, how they get there, who's to say? But there you go. Okay, just a couple of more stories. Here's a fun little, obviously we're going to start purchasing gifts for loved ones and family, all that good stuff. And maybe you just, for some reason, either for your own personal information or you want to boycott Amazon while still using Amazon. Check this one out. Is a new browser extension, and maybe it's just for shock value, but it's a new browser extension, and it's called new browser extension, and it's called, what's it called? Amazon, the Markup, I think. So the Markup created this extension after its investigation into how Amazon ranks its in-house brands in search results, and says the tool, which is available for Chrome-like browsers, so Chromium, so Edge and Chrome, and Firefox, is designed to make searches more transparent. And when they tested it, it obviously highlighted Amazon Basics and Essential products, but it also drew attention to results that were otherwise indistinguishable from ones not affiliated with Amazon. They mentioned a dog leash labeled as being made by Paniku, socks by Tibulen, and a sweater by Offifan. Okay. And you can see here, if you're watching the video portion, so clearly in the bottom here, you had Amazon Essentials. Yeah, those are clearly Amazon products. But then you had baby 2-pack knit cardigan sweaters by Simple Joys by Carter's. And that is an Amazon company. So it's a lot like the grocery store. You think that, oh, look at all this competition, look at all this food, look at all these brands, look at all these companies. But in reality, your grocery store is stocked by like 6 different companies. 6 companies really own all the other companies that you're seeing on the store. And, they give many examples of, everything from socks. So they mentioned that an Amazon brand, and they have different brands that they kind of show here. Everything from obviously Amazon Essentials, and then you have things like Presto, Happy Belly, Revly, Solimo, Wag, Basic Care, May, 206 Collective, Spotted Zebra, Good Threads, Pins On. Amazon owns a lot of companies, and they don't want you to know that a lot of the quote-unquote competition is, really just themselves. So they mentioned that the page also doesn't contain all of Amazon brands. There are letter soup brand names highlighted by Amazon Brand Detector like Weezo, and other brands like Daily Ritual, which showed up often in search results. Despite an Amazon brand being listed as a feature of the Daily Ritual sweater that showed up on his search results, the brand isn't on Amazon's Our Brand page. So, yeah, they just go to show how many brands are really just Amazon in disguise. Yeah, this might not affect what you really purchase because, again, if you're using this, you're shopping on Amazon. And it sounds like you really don't care that you're giving business to Amazon. So this might just be for your own, peace of mind and your own knowledge. But yeah, the markup says the extension does not collect any data and that it should be compatible with other extensions. And there you go. So yeah, it's all Amazon's all the way down. Amazon has branded the turtle. That seems to be the gist of it. Now, there's that story. And again, that's from the Markup, by the way, was the creator of that. So let's see. There's that one. We'll save this big tech firm for last. Twitter, in one of the first big policy changes with the new CEO, because obviously Jack Dorsey stepped down yesterday. One of the first big changes that they had was, Twitter has expanded its private information policy to include media, banning users from sharing photos or videos of a private individual without their permission. The company notes that tweeting such images can violate someone's privacy and potentially lead to harm against them. So there you go. Saying that there are some exceptions, it doesn't cover private media of public figures or others if a photo or video and the text in the tweet are shared in the public interest or add value to public discourse. In other words, if it's newsworthy, Twitter may allow the media to remain on the platform. The company will consider factors such as whether images are available elsewhere, such as TVs or newspapers. That said, if the goal of sharing private photos or videos of public figures or individuals who are part of public conversations is to harass, intimidate, or or use fear to silence them, Twitter may remove the media as well. So the company says it will start enforcing the private image rule today, and that the new measures are part of its work to bring its safety policies in line with human rights standards. So I don't know why it took a whole new CEO to kind of do something so basic. Clearly, if you are a private individual and your photo is circulating, be it a compromising photo or just a photo that you don't like, hey, it's your data. You should have the ability to stop the spread of that. So there you go. So there's that one. Just real quick, don't want to get too much into this, but a company called Occupy. So it's like ocular, as in like your eyeball, P as in printer, and I as in your eyeball, can potentially fulfill the annual requirements of around 10,000 prostheses required for the UK market in particular. And yeah, these are 3D printed eyeballs. So if you're watching the video portion, heck, we can even throw on the video, mute that there, and they show an individual there with his eye. And of course, being able to tell which one is the prosthesis and which one's the actual eye, almost impossible. And they show the process of how they do it. The cool part here, and I didn't know this, especially for like younger kids who need prosthesis eyes. Oh, let's actually show the video. So for younger kids who actually need the eye, before they had to like cram it full of like this putty, this mold, and actually get a really good cast of the eye socket, and then they would make the eyeball, make the mold, all that kind of thing. Now all they do is scan the remaining eye and generate the mold using scans of the person's head, and then recreate the eye in real time using a 3D printer. And that's really, really cool. They said that the team can do a non-invasive 2.4 second scan using a specially modified scanner that delivers a precise measurement of the eye socket. That data is combined with the color calibrated image of a healthy eye and transferred to the system, where it rapidly creates a 3D printed model. And again, just with a single 3D printer, they can potentially fulfill the annual requirements of around 10,000 prostheses. It's really incredible. There you go. So the The Verge's prosthetic is a precursor to a forthcoming clinical trial that will evaluate the effectiveness of 3D printed eyes versus traditional handmade eyes. And around 40 patients will be recruited to assess the prosthesis for movement, look, fit, comfort, mucus discharge, and more. The new eye looks fantastic, and being based on 3D printed technology, it's only going to get better and better. So to be clear, this eye does not actually work. These are prostheses. These are things that kind of fill in the socket and make a person look more normal, as if they were as if they had two eyes, but it is also non-functional. 3D printing isn't there yet, but maybe one day. Maybe one day we can definitely get there. So the last story, and then we're going to wrap it up. The last story that we have is about big tech firms and how ISPs believe that big tech firms should pay for network upgrades, and that's according to European telcos. So we've kind of seen this before, and my big issue has always been the fact that Netflix isn't just pumping out data onto these networks and saying, here, AT&T, you deal with this crap. And, Amazon isn't just pumping, Prime Video or music or its own shopping data. They're not just putting the data out there into the cloud or the servers or whatever and just saying, deal with it. They aren't just, bombarding consumers at home with just a ceaseless stream of data and just saying, here, deal with it. No, it's their own customers who are asking their ISPs to connect them with shopping, social media, streaming video, audio, video games. It's the customers that are asking for the service that the telcos are providing them and are receiving money to provide that service for. The problem is they're promising one thing, and then when it comes time to actually deliver, man, do they have a huge problem actually delivering on what people are paying them for. And then that's why they're then turning around and going, yeah, we receive all this money, but it's not enough. Netflix, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, they have to pay us to upgrade our network to better handle the obligations that their services require of our networks. And it always seems so. And so, obviously, today's letter from the European ISPs was signed by the CEO of A1 Telecom, Austria Group, Vivacom, Proximus Group, Telenor Group, KPN, Altis Portugal, Deutsche Telekom, BT Group, Telia Company, Telefonica, Vodafone Group, Orange Group, and Swisscom. So pretty much every major telecom in the EU. Saying, quote, large and increasing part of network traffic is generated and monetized by big tech platforms, but it requires continuous intensive network investment and planning by telecommunications sector. This model, which enables EU citizens to enjoy the fruits of the digital transformation, can only be sustainable if such big tech platforms also contribute fairly to network costs. And I would believe that more so, maybe in Europe in particular. But if internet providers were treated as a public utility, they were not monetized, just in the way that we don't monetize roads. Yeah, you pay taxes and, the roads get fixed and maintained. But no, I'm assuming it's the same way in the EU, where you pay a company to provide you with internet access, and they provide you with a good, reliable network. I fail to see why tech giants should be the ones to pay for this. Now, one thing that this article does touch on is this idea that before, these networks were upheld with a tax and fee. There we go, facts. With a tax and fee placed on phone networks, traditional landlines, and a couple of those fees were for, updating the network. Obviously, not a lot of people have landline phones anymore, but that, if that's something that lawmakers agreed that this is how we tax, this is how the tax is then passed down to the consumer, and so on and so forth, whatever. That needs updated because there are going to be less and less, they die every single year, the last remaining phone users. That needs to change and likely be updated with a tax on ad revenue. But to say that, well, Netflix, YouTube, Activision Blizzard, Facebook, they're the ones who are using up all the bandwidth, they should pay for it. No, your customers are the ones using up all the bandwidth, and they're paying, and really you should pay for it. Now, maybe there should be audits into these large companies and determine, are they mitigating as much data as they can? Are they optimizing their code? Are they making sure that everything is properly compressed? Are they implementing the latest compression algorithms? Are they, making sure that they're not collecting or sending unnecessary data? Maybe that's something that should be audited. But the idea that, hey, you should pay for it because our customers want more of it. No, and it makes almost no sense. That makes no sense to me. And again, this gets into this idea of net neutrality as well. The fact that it doesn't matter what you consume, data is data, and it should not matter. So the article goes on for a bit. It's fairly well researched, and you can definitely check it out. We'll include it in the show notes. But I think we will go ahead and leave that there. Today's headlines were decent today, and we hope that you enjoyed. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Of course, we're live streaming every day, 10-ish to 4-ish. We're a little bit more lax with our schedule, but we also record our podcast during that time and do interviews. We have a couple of great interviews coming up here in the next coming weeks. And then in early January, highly recommend that you check back with us as we are going to be doing CES 2022 coverage with lots of interviews. We are going to be doing live streams of the show every single day. Those are likely going to be 12 to 14-hour streams. We'll see how that works out. But everyone, hey, check us out at computeramerica.com, twitch.tv/computeramerica, and of course, wherever podcasts are heard, Computer America as well. Everyone, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to the program. And until next time, have a great day. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye-bye.